So today's episode, we're doing something completely different. We're on site with Osborne Contractors here in the DFW area and are going to tackle what I believe is the single greatest barrier to growth, but it's also our industry's most significant issue. We're not talking about supply chain. We're not talking about raw material costs. We're not talking about political impact or vaccine mandates. We're talking about the capacity of leadership inside of growing organizations. Welcome to the PioneerCast. I'm Dwayne Abels, founder and president of Pioneer IQ. Hopefully over the course of the next 10 to 20 minutes, you'll be able to pick up a few things on, one, how to develop your leaders, two, how to scale and build your business, or three, get some insights from the market. Today is quite a special day. I've got a really good friend of mine and a client, Daniel Harris from Osborne Contractors, joining us. Daniel, thanks for being here, man. Thanks for letting us in your house.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to have you here and glad to talk about, one of the biggest problems that I think we all face daily and the way that we do our best to try to stumble through that here.
Yeah, absolutely. So in kind of pre-planning for the episode, we were talking through the fact that not everyone is willing to openly discuss leadership challenges. And I think the reality is every single firm that we've been into, talked to, or worked with over the last 24 months is certainly in the same shoes. And so I really appreciate your confidence in yourself and your team to be transparent, but I'm really excited to hear your perspective. So just kind of getting us rolling here, help me understand what you're seeing in Texas and the construction market and how the lack of leadership capacity is affecting people that you work with or the industry as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, being exposed to and around the construction industry for a long time, we've all heard people talk about the absence of skilled labor and that's been a huge issue in the market.
Yeah.
And, that's been going on, 30, 40 plus years.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, I think, as you've mentioned and we've talked about frequently, at this point, one of the greatest things that's just a plight for our industry as a whole is there's an absence of skilled leaders.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we've got people who have been very effective managers. Mm-hmm. They've been very effective producers, and doers of what they've done, who have continued through attrition, to rise in the ranks to where they're leading, mm-hmm. Or they're in the role of leading,
right.
For an organization. And at the end of the day, the skill set that makes you a great producer, the skill set that makes you a great, mid-level manager isn't necessarily the same skill set that makes you a great leader.
Absolutely. Yep. No doubt. We see it all the time, and it's what you're alluding to is if someone is a great producer, then surely they're going to be a great team leader, right, or a project leader. And if they're a good project leader, surely they're a good project executive or client manager. Well, and certainly they would be great at developing and building a division or team. And lo and behold, they end up being an executive, right?
Right.
And what we find is that, executives are just like NFL football players. They have some innate ability, but they've got to train and fail and win and train more to be prepared and to lead their team. So you're seeing a lot of that, I'm assuming.
Oh, absolutely. And that's that's something that we try to be amazingly cognizant of, mm-hmm. in the group of leaders that we have. And I don't mean leader just from a position standpoint. Mm-hmm. Everyone's a leader. Yeah. I mean, that's the way that we focus on here.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you started 2 weeks ago and you have a hammer and a shovel in your hand or a trowel,
yeah.
or whether you own the company.
Yeah.
Everyone's a leader.
Yeah.
That's willing to step up and accept that role.
Yeah.
And so, as we try to focus on that, and that's a struggle. Struggle's the right word, I think, of struggling through the way that we put the appropriate emphasis on it. We absolutely are cognizant of that, and then you see that all around you, whether
Yep.
that's with, sometimes clients, sometimes other, specialty trade contractors,
Mm-hmm.
Subcontractors around us. Sometimes just people, vendors,
Yeah.
it could be whoever that's interacting in our ecosystem that you're running through trying to help remove obstacles and working on the tactical things.
Yep.
And in the process of that, you end up running into these roadblocks
Yep.
that are typically generated from either bad or an absence of leadership.
Right.
Which the absence of leadership is almost worse than bad leadership from my perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so this isn't rehearsed. This isn't scripted. I'd really like to get into your story and really kind of get into the journey that you've been on the last 24 months. And then talk a little bit about the journey and then specifically what you guys have been doing to develop leaders and to empower them. So maybe 2 years ago, you and I were introduced through a mutual friend of ours, Jason Williford at Culture Index here in DFW. And I think Jason called me, I think, if I remember this correctly, I think you guys were at dinner.
We were.
And I was at a baseball game, right? And Jason Williford calls me, hey man, I'm sitting here with two guys, Daniel Harris and Dave Osborne, and here's what's going on. And I'm like, I'm at a baseball game, but okay. But that's really kind of how it started.
It is.
Tell us a little bit about your journey that you've been on the last 24 months, where you started, kind of how much you've blown through your growth curve, and what you've been doing to create leadership capacity here at Osborne.
Sure. No, absolutely. That's super loaded because there's about 17 inquiries in there.
Right.
But trying to hit high level, rewind 2-ish years ago to where we engaged. Prior to that, super thankful for the invitation to join Dave in doing what he's doing here and has done here for a long time at Osborne.
Right.
In cultivating and generating an environment that allows people to be very successful.
Yeah.
And so, since after joining the company and joining Dave and kind of walking through what the future success looks like and really trying to get and focus a very intentional focus on looking at what the future looks like and not only what does that look like and defining that, but how do we get there?
Yeah.
We absolutely, the first thing you run into is people.
Yeah.
We're in a trade that a lot of people think is pretty easy. In reality, it's definitely not.
Yeah.
Have a tremendous amount of admiration for our craftsmen and what they do day in and day out, and our folks that support those guys. But regardless of what those things look like, to continue to grow and scale a business, a business that has 16, 17, 800 employees, depending upon the time of year, you have to have leadership across the entire organization.
Yeah.
So part of that, you want to attract good leaders and you want to get leaders in your organization, you have to know what the hell you're about.
Yep.
If I can say hell, sorry, buddy.
Hell yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you don't know what you're about, or the only thing that you're about is about dollars and cents are a big part of what we do.
Yeah.
But if the only thing you're about is dollars and cents, no great leader or someone with great leadership potential is going to come to your organization.
Right. Absolutely.
So we spent a long time talking and conversing about that. We spent a lot of time with the organization prior to us meeting, trying to really define, hey, why are you here? Why do you stay here? What do you love about this organization? And what are those things? And thank God, it boiled down to the fact that the people who were really critical to the operation were here because they loved the other people that were here.
Yeah.
Loved the other people that were here.
Absolutely.
And we'll touch more on that later, right? And outside of that, they loved the opportunity that they had, that the company gave them to support and build the people that were here.
Absolutely.
So from my seat, my vantage point, that's like winning the freaking lottery.
Yeah.
When the core group of your folks, you sit down and try to sort through that, and that's what you come up with.
Yeah.
And that's them to us. That's not us trying to push that down on people. So as we start going through and trying to facilitate that, obviously there's a huge onus of okay, how do we translate that into that centered, a purpose centered around that, and then developing groups and teams around that in a strategic, intentional manner.
Correct. Yep.
So enter Pioneer IQ and Dwayne, thanks to some off the cuff crap talking from our good friend Williford.
Yeah.
But I think we sat down at a table, not this table, beautiful table, but a different table at our old office, and sat down and walked through and talked about what we were about. Realized there was a great connection there. Instantaneously knew the fact and saw the value in being able to participate in strategy and leadership development with our other leaders in lieu of having to facilitate that was a huge, huge value.
Yeah.
And so I'm just, eternally grateful outside of our friendship,
Yeah.
just you being able to come in and help facilitate those things so I actually could participate.
Yeah.
It makes, it seems like a little thing, but it makes all the difference in the world. So now we've made it to 2 years ago. Sorry for the long answer.
No.
But, at the end of the day, we really hunkered down. We focused on, we said, hey, look, we know who we are. We know what our core values are, or what we like to call our guiding principles.
Yep.
That really define the way that we're going to interact with people, and the way that we want to be able to interact with people. But we also started to say, okay, hey, what's the bigger picture?
Yep.
When we do look into the future, what does that look like, and then how do we get there?
Yep.
So, man, it was, you swooped in. We started talking about how do we define that. We took our leadership team. We got everybody sat down and solidified, in a retreat, and really identified what does that look like with our core group of leaders, executives,
Yep.
leaders, and walk through what that was. Had very, very candid, very passionate conversations, held each other accountable,
Yep.
and tested one another.
Right.
Iron sharpening iron for sure, about what we meant by what we believed and how we could articulate that.
Yep.
And so, in 3 days, come back from that group, present to a bigger group of our leaders,
Yep.
how we did that, and I think everybody instantaneously embraced it.
Yeah.
It's a lot. We talk a lot of times about these realizations you come to in life where it's a feeling,
Right.
but you don't have the words to articulate it.
Correct.
And
Absolutely.
that's exactly the response we got from our team is, hey, look, that of course that's what our purpose is. Of course that's what our vision is.
Right.
That's what we've been about, but we've articulated it very well,
Yeah.
in the result of what the leaders had. So the second part of that question, how have we really gone from there to continue to scale and to grow?
Correct.
We sat down and looked at growth and looked at that not as, what a lot of people do, and that's just say, hey, look, how do I just scoop in as much business as I can scoop in and focus on dollars and cents? We said, how do we grow a team and continue to balance the growth of that team in those leaders with the work that pulls in that makes sense for those people?
Yep.
Focusing on the people and developing the people, all of a sudden the margin that those people had and the capacity that generated meant we could do more work.
Absolutely.
So at the end of the day, we set a very, very logical growth curve based around our goals and our objectives, and said, hey, this is where we're going to be in 2021. This is where we'll be in 2022, all the way up to 2025. Well, here we find ourselves on the eve of 2022.
Yep.
At the revenue goal and our all of various other KPIs
Right.
That we set to establish our success of where we wanted to be in 2025.
Right. Yeah. And we've talked about this several times, but we encourage executives to put growth curves in place that gives you enough time to put the right processes, systems, and tools in place in order to be able to scale and grow your business without stressing people out, divorces and all those other bad things that can happen. And the one thing that we can't control that it seems to have happened with you guys and a lot of other people we work with is there's like this divine intervention piece that's not in the plan. And, a couple of those divine intervention pieces came with, in the form of a couple of people who, as we're going through the process, they literally said, hey, I'm realizing that this purpose really isn't for me.
Yeah.
And the divine intervention piece was having amazing other people lined up to come and jump into that spot that had the skills, gifts, and talents and the passion for what it is you all want to do. The second divine intervention, I think is very safe to say, is when you get a group of high horsepower leaders all focused on doing something for the greater good of communities or people, families, etc., crazy things can happen, and the magnitude of attraction factor that you guys have is crazy. And one of the things I'm personally concerned about going into 2022 is, if you know PioneerIQ, we believe in sticking with the growth curve. There's just so much opportunity come your way that the magnitude of scalability is huge going forward. And do you feel like your leaders are ready or close to ready, or what are your thoughts on where they're at?
I do.
Yeah.
I think if you ask them, I think just because of the mentality that they all have, the drive that they have, sports analogy, those guys don't show up to play basketball. It's not about putting more points on the board than whoever they're playing against.
Right.
They realize they're playing against themselves. They're
Yep.
showing up and they're playing golf every day. It's,
Yep.
hey, I hit a 77 yesterday. I want to hit a 76 today.
Yeah.
And so there's never satisfaction. Sometimes I got to tell them, hey, take a deep breath. And sometimes I have to be told, and I appreciate them for holding me accountable.
Yeah.
Of take a deep breath, realize where we've come, realize where that is with our plan.
Right.
And acknowledge, some of the hard work. So no, I think the guys are ready. I think the biggest kind of the root of the mentality that I just mentioned is the reason why they are ready. Mm-hmm. We were talking earlier about Zig Ziglar.
Yeah.
A great quote says, "If you're not willing to learn, no one can help you.
Right.
If you are determined to learn, no one can stop you."
Right. Love that.
And so our guys live that out every day. I mean, they walk in, they build cultures where their people can hold them accountable, where their people can come to them and challenge them for the things that they've committed to do.
Yep.
I get held accountable by our leaders and our people across the organization daily.
Yep.
And that's what we want. It's a beautiful thing.
Yep.
And so are we ready? Yeah, we're ready.
Right.
We got it. You know, we feel like we've prepared through a long off season.
Yeah.
And the season started.
Yeah.
It's the excitement of the first time you get underneath the center and you're snapping the ball for the first play of the season.
Right. Yeah. I was describing your culture to another company maybe a week or two ago, and I described it as a competitive camaraderie that you've created here, and it certainly is an iron sharpening iron environment, but you don't ever see an accusation game playing out here. It's very much an iron sharpening iron scenario, and I really value and appreciate that about you. So as we're preparing for the Denver boot camp, we actually had Harp and Slim come in with us, like they're here again today, and shoot a video just to have Daniel talk a little bit about some of the experience that they had with our leadership program. And as he and I were talking through that, he said, we have a lot of high horsepower partnerships that could value from what we've been incorporating and doing into our business. So at that time, you said, hey, we're standing in a space that wasn't completely done yet. It's done now. Why don't we use this space and bring in some of our partnerships and introduce them to some of the stuff that we're going through? So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, super excited. I couldn't have ever imagined the space and the end result of it that we're in now.
Gorgeous.
Had a lot of great partners in the industry that were part of it and came and joined it, and leaders from those organizations who really wanted to provide a great product for us and be part of it. And then our marketing leader and branding leader here, Remington May, smashed on design.
Completely agree.
And love it. Every day you find new uses. I'll share a little story with you because it's story time.
Sure. Yeah.
But we had Thanksgiving here, and we had a bunch of our employees here for lunch. We had a bunch of industry colleagues here for lunch. We had some of our neighbors, from architecture firm here and sharing lunch with us. And at one point, it was time to get everybody, focused and together before we did, say a few words and do a raffle. So Rebecca, in her daily challenge of herding the cats, flags me over and says, hey, say something. So I went to go say something and address the group and express appreciation.
Yeah.
Looked around the room. We have 150 people here. Everyone's smiling, everyone interacting, everyone from all sorts of business units and parts of the organization in the industry commingled.
Yeah.
And just having a great time, and it being a warm, embracing environment.
Yes.
And I got choked up, man, and I'm not usually short on words. So, I said, hey, everybody, thanks for coming. Choke, choke, choke. Hey, Rebecca's going to do a raffle. So, she jumped in and swooped in and saved the day. But it's just been amazing to have the space to be able to allow for those things. And for great opportunities, with you guys coming in, with local association having the opportunity to do some stuff here, and our teams have an opportunity to do stuff here where we can help, not just inside these walls with our organization, but help fulfill our purpose of impacting the industry.
Yes.
And part of what we're doing, that's not just about us, it's not just about our people. It's, hey, how do we help the industry and support the industry in developing people, developing relationships, developing partnerships, and really trying to build significance.
Absolutely. So we're going to, in the boot camp, we're going to That's here in your office, DFW Plano area, last week of February. So we're gonna actually start to teach and equip and apply with this boot camp some of the same things that we've been doing with your leaders. And what I hope to get out of that is that we leverage some of your emerging leaders, and they're a part of communicating their story to the rest of the group and helping the rest of the group learn from what you've been experiencing over the last 2 years. But we're going to teach them some real fundamentals of leading one-to-one, leading a small team, how to empower the team, and break out the toolbox and get into some fun stuff. So looking forward to that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
So hopefully over the course of the last 5 or 6 minutes, maybe 25 minutes, you've picked up some, he's very short-winded. You've picked up some insights to help you develop your leaders, scale and build your business, or capture some insights on your market. We're going into the Christmas season. Lots of things going to pull all of us leaders in different directions. It is mission critical now more than ever, the next 3 weeks, to take a minute and to reflect on how you're behaving and exerting your energy and making sure that your leadership legacy is continuing through the holidays and not taking a break. Lead on.